Hello, everyone, and welcome to Talking Terror. I'm your host, Daniel Aston. So, when I go to make a video, I have a general knowledge of the topic the video is about. And usually, my research consists of little details times, dates, certain people, etc. But on haunted dolls, however, I admittedly am not very knowledgeable outside a couple of the more popular ones. So, that being said, I know I promised five, but I think I may have bit off a little bit more than I can chew. The problem isn't a lack of haunted dolls, it's more of an overabundance. And honestly, the research got a little bit more extensive than I thought it was going to be. And I went down a bunch of rabbit holes and I found there's a lot of dolls that has the same origin stories and things like that, if they even had one. I sort of felt like I'd be telling a lot of the same tales over and over. So it was kind of hard just to choose just five. Um, So I'm going to do this video over one more haunted doll, and then on my next video, I think I'll give you guys the island of dolls, and I will be doing more haunted doll videos in the future. Just give me some time, let me get more familiar with them, do some more research, and kind of figure out which ones I think would be best for the channel and for you guys, and be the most interesting. If you do have a haunted doll that you would like to see me review or tell the story of, put it in the comments of this video and I would be more than happy to do so. But all that being said, we're going to get into this video, and today we are going to be talking about Robert the doll. So in 1904, a young boy from Key West, Florida named Robert Otto was gifted a doll. We'll get into where from here in a little bit. This doll was Robert's best friend and even wore a sailor suit that used to belong to Robert. The sailor suit is not the only thing the doll took from Robert, however, it also took his name. Robert insisted on going by his middle name, Eugene, or Gene for short, and the doll took on the name Robert. Gene's parents would hear him talking to Robert, but strangely enough, they'd hear a deeper voice answer. Gene's parents would dismiss this as Gene changing his voice to have conversations with the doll. Things would become more sinister, however. Gene's parents would soon notice that Robert's facial expressions would change. Gene would even blame Robert if something came up broken or missing around the house. Gene's parents had said that there seemed to be an argument once where Gene and the voice they thought Gene used for Robert were talking at the same time. One night, the Otto parents heard Gene screaming from his room. They found the room in complete disarray. Gene was crying in the corner saying, "Robert did it." Robert was sitting up on Gene's bed. Gene's parents decided enough was enough. They took Robert and put him in the attic. Footsteps and giggling could be heard from the attic. After a while, Robert seemed to quit his shenanigans, seemingly giving in to his quarantine. Robert was all but forgotten. Gene grew up and moved away to start his life. Gene ended up in Paris and became an artist and married a woman named Anne Parker. When the Otto parents passed away, Gene moved himself and his wife back to Key West into his childhood home. Going through the attic, Gene ran into his old childhood friend, Robert. Excited to have his friend back, Gene brought Robert back into the house. Anne, however, wasn't as excited. She found the doll creepy and unsettling. Gene started taking Robert everywhere he went. The shenanigans started up again. Robert would move locations, his facial expressions would change. The neighbors even claimed they've seen Robert move from window to window. Gene passed away in June of 1974. The Otto home was then sold to a woman named Myrtle Reuter. When exploring the home, Myrtle found Robert tucked away in a chest. Robert's hauntings continued after his release from the chest. Robert seemed to like Myrtle, and his supernatural activity seemed to be less malevolent this go around. Robert would be heard running down the hall or seen looking out the windows by the neighbors. When Myrtle would have a guest over, Robert would scowl if they said anything negative about his former owner. In 1994, the big house in Key West, which at this point has been dubbed the Artist House, had become too much for Myrtle to keep up with. She sold the house and moved to a more manageable location. This time, Robert wasn't left behind. Robert, however, didn't seem to like this move. He went back to his old ways, and Myrtle thought it was time to rid herself of Robert. She donated Robert to the Fort East Martello Museum. There, Robert was put in a glass case and put on display. When you go to visit Robert, there are rules to follow. Do not touch the case, be respectful, and ask permission before taking a photograph. It is said that Robert will give you permission by nodding his head. There have been claims that people who do not follow these rules have experienced major misfortunes in their lives after their visit, ranging from divorce, loss of jobs, and even major illness. The only way to break Robert's curse is to apologize to the doll. The people who can't go back and visit Robert to apologize in person will send an apology letter to Robert. The museum has even started to hang the letters around Robert's case for visitors to read. There are hundreds. And Robert's curse does not discriminate. One famous person claims to have fallen victim of Robert's curse, blaming a run of health problems on the doll. That person is none other than the Prince of Darkness himself, Ozzy Osbourne. So by now you might be wondering where Robert came from. Well, there are two versions of Robert's origin story. The first version is that Jean's grandfather picked Robert up in Germany while visiting as a gift for Jean himself, and which doesn't really explain the hauntings, but there is some validity to this story given the fact that upon further investigation of Robert, they have found out that Robert was made by a company called the Steiff Company, which is based out of Germany. They believe that Robert was a one of a kind doll made as a prop, like a window prop for a store. The second version is that Robert was gifted to Jean kind of more vindictively by a servant of the Ottos that was found practicing voodoo in their home. And of course, being devout Christian, they fired said servant, and she gave the doll to Robert as a curse. Me personally, I kind of believe there's some sort of mix somewhere in between the two stories because the voodoo would explain the hauntings and the curses and stuff like that, and the grandfather would explain where Robert actually came from. So that's just my take on it. What are your thoughts? I want to hear what you think in the comments. Is Robert really a cursed doll? If so, do you have any theories of your own? And or do you just think that Robert is just a scary, spooky story to bring people into the museum, and that this whole origins is just a bunch of baloney? I want to hear what you think in the comments, and we'll see you in the next video. Until then, stay spooky.